Welcome to a special election edition of Liz's 360, a lightning round of what's happening around the world on Capitol Hill and how it impacts Main Street USA, with a quick sneak peek into next week. So let's get started. We're less than a week out from Election Day 2024. I'm going to leave it to the pundits on who's going to win, but I will tackle how foreign policy is playing in this election. So let's take a look at what voters are saying, what candidates are saying, and what the world is saying. So first up, the voters. Poll after poll continues to point to James Carville's famous line, "It's the economy, stupid," as the key issue driving voters at the ballot box. Yet, given that what's happening globally is impacting our economy every day, I'm not surprised to see polls, including this recent Pew survey, that found that more than 6 in 10 voters say foreign policy is very important to their decision in this election. Now, USGLC did our own polling last month, and we found that nearly 9 in 10 voters across the political spectrum are very concerned about global stability, particularly about America's rivals, China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, creating instability around the world that disrupts global supply chains, our own economy. Look, when what happens overseas lands on our kitchen table, there's nothing foreign about foreign policy, which is why we're seeing headlines all over saying that voters care about America's role in the world. So regardless of the outcome of next week, policymakers will have to tackle this central question, which takes us to topic number 2, what the candidates are saying. Now, we all have heard former President Trump and Vice President Harris make their case on foreign policy, but I bet you haven't heard as much about what's happening in key down-ballot races. So USGLC, through our signature Impact 2024 initiative, that's our nationwide network, has spoken to hundreds and hundreds of candidates running for Congress, district by district, about the importance of America's role in the world. You know, we have actually taken the time to watch all the Senate candidate debates across the country, so you didn't have to. And here's what our team found. Across the 28 debates in 24 states for the U.S. Senate that have occurred to date, foreign policy featured as a debate topic in the overwhelming majority. In fact, there were only 2 debates where foreign policy didn't come up. And to be clear, not every comment was pro-engagement, but most of them were. All told, the 2024 Senate debates included more than 2.5 cumulative hours dedicated explicitly to foreign policy. The biggest topic, won't surprise you probably, global competition with China. But the debates covered all kinds of issues in foreign policy. Threats from our rivals like Iran, sowing disarray in the Middle East, support for our partners like Israel, Ukraine, and Taiwan, concerns for global humanitarian needs, including Gaza, even the international dimensions of the fentanyl crisis, and not surprising, some tougher topics like the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. We even saw some good old-fashioned bipartisan agreement about American global leadership and support for America's allies in several debates. Here's just one example in the Senate race in New Jersey.
As the United States, this is a question of what does American global leadership mean right now? As a country that has been trying to support the front lines of our democracies all around the world.
I agree we need to support our allies around the world. Ukraine, Israel. I would rather be sending treasure now and support than have Putin encroach into NATO and us have to send young men and women.
So while candidates are certainly not agreeing on much these days, it's great to see moments where politics really does stop at the water's edge. Which brings me to topic number 3, what the world is saying. Recently, I saw a New York Times foreign correspondent do a pretty good job summing up on what we're hearing from folks around the world about the U.S. election's impact on global affairs. Here's what he said. Quote, "There's this kind of fascination and almost fury, a feeling that so much of life or policy in Europe depends on voters in North Carolina, in Georgia, and Arizona." In a Council on Foreign Relations podcast last week, one German journalist added this.
America's a huge country with a huge impact on world affairs. Whenever you create a vacuum, whenever the United States decides not to be part of that game, this will be filled immediately, and the players who fill it will be the bad guys.
And now for my sneak peek. So all eyes are obviously on next Tuesday's election, but USGLC is looking at the days and weeks after the election. Congress returns to Washington in November for what is expected to be a wild lame duck session with a huge to-do list, like getting organized for the next Congress, addressing domestic disaster relief, and preventing another government shutdown. And of course, the dynamics for all this could shift depending on what happens by the election results. So lots to talk about on the other side of the elections. So until then, don't forget to vote. We can never forget that not everyone in this world has this extraordinary privilege and responsibility. So happy voting, and stay tuned for my next Liz's 360.